Our next one is titled, I'm Becoming Extremely Resentful. Background first, my husband was raised with an old school situation with his parents. His father left for long stretches of work while the mum stayed home with the kids. I work from home full time and watch our two children who are 2.5 years old and 6 months old and have not had a single moment alone since our first was born. Whenever I bring up that I'm going to get my nails done, my husband says I can take at least one of the kids with me. I seriously get 0 minutes to myself where I'm either not working or taking care of the kids. I said this to my husband and he said that I get alone time when I sleep. Seriously? And even that isn't true because our 6-month-old always finds his way into bed for middle of the night feedings. My husband leaves for work every day, Monday to Friday, and will even say how he didn't get that many calls, so he wound up just driving around, killing time until he could clock out. He's a service technician. Wow, what a luxury. I can't remember the last time I drove around anywhere without one of the kids in tow. I love my kids so much and would seriously do anything for them, but my husband just doesn't understand needing a single hour to myself. I'm constantly made to feel guilty, even if I want to run an errand alone. To make matters worse, the car I drive had an issue and I've been waiting on getting a new car because my husband kept taking his sweet time getting a title update so we can go look and hopefully get one. For the last 3 months, I've been dependent on him driving us in his car. It's his baby and no one else can drive it to and from any appointments or to go anywhere. Asking for 1 hour to get my nails done isn't asking for the world. And the fact that he makes me feel so guilty even asking for that is really making me completely resentful of his freedom to come and go whenever the hell he wants. He said, I'm the mom, so I shouldn't want to leave my kids. I'm at my wit's end with him and his old school close-minded ways, and that he doesn't see I just need a damn break before I snap and end our relationship altogether. We've been together 11 years, but I'm seriously considering it. I pay for everything for the kids since I claimed them on taxes, and I pay for every single half of every single bill of ours, so it's not like I'm financially dependent on him. I'm just so poor OP. This one's pretty rough for me. I think the thing that I find so horrifying about it, honestly, is I just don't understand how you end up in a marriage with someone else where any party in that marriage, it doesn't have to be the wife going to the husband, but even if the husband were to go to the wife and say, look, I just need a little bit of time by myself. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I've been with the kids the whole time. I just need like just an hour, 2 hours to wind down and to do something that's for me. I cannot imagine any situation in which it's acceptable for the other party to say no. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand what kind of, like, if you care about the other person and you have some kind of compassion and understanding and you want them to be happy and you want to support them and you care about your marriage and you care about your kids and, you know, like all of these other things, if you have just that base level of empathy and understanding for the other person, then you would of course say yes. So she tries to she gives him all these excuses. She says, oh no, he's old school. You know, it's because he's a traditional type of father and husband and he thinks that the woman should be looking after the kids. And yeah, I look after the kids like 99.9% of the time. But now there's this just one circumstance where I'm like, please, just a little bit of time. Like I've had a 6 months old. And for the entire 6 months, she's never had a single break for a single hour of time. Like that is insane. That he replied, you get alone time when you sleep. That's such a terrible thing to say to someone. I have no idea what was going through his head that he thought that that was an acceptable response, to be honest. It's so completely out there. Like why would you say this? My only potential reasoning that I can come up with from his side is that I imagine if he has not been spending a lot of time looking after the kids by himself, and you have one toddler and one baby, so they are not, you know, they're not so easy to look after. It's not like they're very independent and that they can occupy themselves for long periods of time. They might need a fair bit of attention. Then I could maybe imagine that he's just not very confident with it. And so he's coming up with all of these excuses to try and get out of doing it, when actually what he needs to do, and what maybe you should do, is convince him, or just like have a conversation along the lines of, maybe he can look after them for a little period of time while you're still in the house. So if you need help, so if he needs help, you can jump in. But fundamentally, you need to first sit down and understand exactly why he's so against it, what his problem is. And if he really says it's, you know, that you're the mom, you should never want time away from your kids and so on, then I think I would tell him, yeah, okay, I don't care what I should or shouldn't want. The fact of the matter is, this is something that I need. And I don't understand why you're not able to help me out here, because we're in this together. And if he's equally as committed to you as you are to him, then whatever it is you need, he would be trying to help you. So I think that fundamentally you need to understand what his problem is. And then if it is something like lack of confidence, then you can try and come up with ways to work on it together. And hopefully that would work out. I think the guilt tripping is kind of really harmful, honestly. It's a little bit evil. And the idea that you shouldn't have needs as a mother because you have kids and you're responsible for them and you look after them is also pretty terrible from an implication perspective. But I suspect that I really believe that it's not possible that he's a good father and a good husband without there being some other kind of reason for it. So I'm hopeful for OP that that's what's going on, and that if you sit down and really talk about it, you can say so. I would also be getting resentful. I think resentment in a relationship and in a marriage is red flags. The moment you start feeling resentful about something is a very clear sign that there is something there that you need that is not being met. And that sense of bitterness and anger needs to come out somehow. You need to try and find a solution to that resentment, and you need to agree on one together for you to be able to move on. Because long-term resentment in a marriage will definitely ruin their... I mean, she's already saying they've been together for 11 years, and she's already like, you know what, I think I can't do this anymore. And it would be awful to ruin an otherwise happy marriage, a good family, you know, like a stable, secure environment for your kids, because of something so stupid as this one. So I hope that he manages to get his head out of his butt and to really listen and to try and meet her where she needs. Now, the comments are kind of on the same page. One person says, it's terrible. I'm sorry to hear this, and you absolutely need time for yourself. That's not being old school. He's just not worried about your needs at all. And the next one says, yeah, you're working way too hard to not get some kind of a break like others have mentioned. Maybe you could pay a babysitter and take an Uber to get your nails done. Do you have a friend that could watch them, or any other family? Working from home full time is working. Maybe tell them that you'd like to find childcare arrangements for them while you're working. I'm sorry, this is ridiculous on so many levels. No wonder you're feeling resentful. You have every right to. And yeah, I think that if you do end up in a situation where for whatever reason he's really against it, then I think it's fair enough to be like, okay, maybe you can try and make it happen on your own. But honestly, I would probably say that the moment you start thinking like that and behaving like that in your marriage, then you're heading down a pretty dark path. I think that you should be able to talk to each other and to get him to accept that this is something that you need, to take it at face value, to believe you when you say, I just need some time alone, and to try and do what he can to make that happen. Like, I'm surprised that even needs to be said, to be honest. So long as you think of a marriage as like a partnership where both of you try to help the other person out and you're a team working together, then you would never be in this type of situation where you have to justify needing some time to yourself. Like, that's pretty awful. This one is really funny. She says, maybe he's open to counseling, or talk to his mom about how she navigated being at home. Maybe his memory is that he never left her when he was young, but possibly she did have breaks that he doesn't remember. A lot of times my husband needs to know that I'm not the only one with these crazy ideas and how other people do things non-traditionally too. I would say go ahead and pay a sitter to at least be at home with you for an hour. But that may cause an argument if he feels the kids shouldn't be around strangers. You could say your friend was visiting. As long as you like the person, you could consider them a friend and it wouldn't be a lie. And then you get these types of people who give you advice that honestly is like a way to make a much bigger problem out of a situation than you need to. The moment that you have to try and come up with lies to get your needs met in your marriage, then you're just no, don't do that. That's not a good life choice. You should not be getting babysitters without agreeing with your husband that that's what you should be doing. And you shouldn't be pretending that the babysitter that you're paying is your friend just because, you know, if he has a problem with strangers, and you can just lie to him and pretend that it's not a stranger. Like, that's not a good foundation for your marriage. Your marriage should be about trust and negotiation and agreeing on things together. The rest of it also kind of annoys me. I get it. I understand. Sometimes people need to hear you say something, that like need to hear the same statement from someone else's mouth to take it seriously. I would accept that under normal circumstances. I think that makes sense if you're like working in customer support and you switch to a different agent because you really hate that person. And so when they switch, you hear what they have to say. And even if they say the same thing, you're a lot calmer and can hear it. But if this is how you treat your wife, like if I had to go talk to my husband's mom and then his mom had to tell him, you know what, your wife isn't even being that unreasonable, you should listen to her, I would be so angry. Like I would just, what that would say to me is that my husband takes what his mom says more seriously than what he takes what I say. And that's not a good dynamic in a marriage either. So I get where she's coming from in terms of advice, but man, that would piss me off so much. And then this person says, which I kind of agree with, she says, this doesn't sound old school, this sounds super controlling. And another one replies, it sounds lazy to me, like he simply gets to drive around all afternoon doing nothing, but she doesn't get to relinquish the kids to him for a whole hour to get a mental break. Seems like he just doesn't want to be a dad and all of the responsibilities that come with it, and he doesn't have to because she's carrying the burden instead. I say burden not because being a parent is one, but because taking care of other people 24/7 with no time for yourself is... I'd be raising hell over this. And another one also backs that up. She says, not even remotely old school, especially since she works and pays half the bills. It sounds like he just wants life to be easy and convenient for him. Now, I do think people always assume the worst. So where I say maybe he's coming at it from this angle of like lack of confidence. He's not, you know, he doesn't trust that he's going to be able to look after both kids completely comfortably. And that's why he's looking for excuses to be like, maybe you can take one of the kids with you and it's not going to be a big deal. We can just split them and it's fine. Other people go, he's just lazy and wants a convenient, easy way out. Like, yeah, maybe, you know, and maybe that one is true, but I just wouldn't go into a marriage with someone and assume that that is the case. I think trying to assume good faith is probably a better life choice. In general, though, it does sound a little bit controlling. And what is not old school about it is that this is obviously not a traditional kind of marriage in that sense. Like, she is working, she pays half the bills, she pays everything for the kids. At the moment that you have this kind of monetary split in your marriage, this is not an old school marriage anymore. And the description that she had where she says that the father would be out for long stretches for work and then the mother would be at home with the kids, she's clearly not staying at home with the kids, right? So the whole argument that she's trying to present here in terms of how to excuse his perspective and what he's trying to say is just not true. It's just not the case. Fundamentally, I would hope that they can really sit down and hash it out, and she would, just by saying the words to him, look, I really need this. I'm just exhausted and I'm overwhelmed and this would really help me out. I'm asking you to do this for me. That would be enough to make him go, okay, fair enough, just because he loves her and he cares about her and he wants to make sure that she's happy and feels supported in their relationship and in their marriage. Like, I think that is the normal way of responding to this type of situation. It should not be a fight. If someone says, I need an hour to myself for any reason, honestly, if my kid was just really stressful and I spent time with him, even if it was only half an hour and that half hour was really stressful, and I went to my husband and I said, look, I just really need a break. I'm sorry, that was a really exhausting half hour and I just need some time out. Then he would immediately be like, yeah, sure, of course, whatever you need. And I would do the same for him if he was in that situation as well. Like, I think this is just part of what being married should look like for most people.